Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the 2021 Virtual Conservation Celebration. I'm your host, Aaron Green, Superintendent of Polk County Schools and a big Conserving Carolina supporter. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight, and we're in store for a great evening. We've got a lineup of conservation videos, music by Shannon Whitworth and Woody Platt of Steep Canyon Rangers, project updates, and an important message from our keynote speaker, Jay Lutzy. I hope you'll sit back and enjoy yourself, and if you feel inspired, don't forget to make a donation to support the work of Conserving Carolina. Now let's take a moment to hear an update from the Executive Director, Kieran Rowe.
Thank you, Aaron, and thanks to all of you for joining us once again for our virtual conservation celebration. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are here in the homeland of the Cherokee, the Yuchi, and the Catawba people. We offer our deep gratitude to the land for so many gifts, and we offer our respect to the people who have cared for this land since time immemorial. So I'd like to take just a few minutes to highlight some of the great things that Conserving Carolina has been doing in the past year thanks to your generous support. We continue to work on some great land conservation projects. We've recently added several properties to the Mountain Bogs National Wildlife Refuge. These mountain bog properties are home to some of our region's rarest plant and animal species, so it's really great to get those places into permanent conservation. We've also recently added some properties to our ownership along the French Broad River, where we're working with partners such as the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to restore the floodplains to a much more natural functioning to benefit wildlife habitat and water quality, and to really help with resilience against climate change and the increased flooding that we're seeing. We've also added ownership of land generously donated to us down in Polk County, in the Roseland community outside of Tryon, and we're working over time to see if we can add that 75-acre property along the North Packlet River to public access and maybe tie in eventually to the town of Tryon's Greenway system. And lastly, we have really been excited here just in the last few weeks to announce the closing on our acquisition of the Acoosta Rail Trail Corridor. After several years of really working hard, we have concluded and now own this rail corridor connecting Hendersonville and Brevard, and we're excited now that we own it to begin working with partners on the trail construction to eventually have that 19-mile linear park connecting Hendersonville and Brevard that will be just a great amenity for local residents as well as visitors to our region. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our great, energetic young intern, Alexla Perez Sanchez, for a video that she's developed for you all.
Okay. Hi, my name is Alexla Perez Sanchez, and I am Conserving Carolina's Summer 2021 Communications and Engagement Intern. My involvement with Conserving Carolina really just opened my eyes to a lot of things that I really wasn't paying attention to before. And one of those things or issues was climate change, and just in general, like taking accountability for my mistakes and how I contribute to this issue. I think that we should start off by emphasizing that climate change really harms a lot of the places that we're working really hard to protect. Although we've protected the land, climate change can make these places uninhabitable for many of the plants and animals that are living there now. At the same time, climate change threatens our communities with more intense storms, floods, droughts, and wildfires. When we protect forests and other natural areas, those natural areas are actually storing carbon. The Nature Conservancy has found that natural climate solutions can provide up to 37% of the emission reductions necessary to keep global temperature rise below 2 degrees Celsius. A recent Conserving Carolina study has found that our protected lands are storing 4.3 million metric tons of carbon. which is essentially the equivalent of 1.77 billion gallons of gasoline. When we protect natural areas, they improve our resilience to severe weather. For example, by restoring wetlands along rivers, like at the mouth of Mud Creek, we reduce the impact of flooding. Abundant forest lands can reduce the severity of both floods and droughts. We are protecting migration corridors that allow both plants and animals to shift their range as the climate changes, either moving further north or to higher elevations. For example, we recently added land to DuPont State Recreational Forest that closes a gap in a 100,000 plus acre conservation corridor. And our protected lands in the Hickory Nut Gorge, like Young's Mountain, are part of a key migration corridor. In our current strategic plan, Conserving Carolina committed to reducing our own greenhouse emissions. In a recent study, we found that we can reduce our emission by taking these 5 steps. Employee commuting was the largest contributor to Conserving Carolina's total GHG emission in both 2019 and 2020. However, we saw this drastically decrease in 2020 when everyone started working remotely. This shift to working remotely should be sustained indefinitely to maintain GHG emission reductions from employee commuting. Conserving Carolina should develop incentives for carpooling and cultivate a company culture that encourages carpooling. The third step is transitioning to an electric vehicle fleet. As of now, there are 3 company vehicles that are running on standard gasoline. Conserving Carolina's vehicle fleet must transition from internal combustion vehicles powered by gasolines to electric vehicles. The fourth step is natural gas heating replacement. Office heating is currently fueled by natural gas. Replacing this natural gas heating with a heat pump will electrify the heating at our offices, eliminating the need to combust fuel on site. Conserving Carolina should install sufficient solar panel capacity at our offices to offset all electrical consumption. I think to myself a lot about the natural disasters that I see on social media, and it terrifies me sometimes to think that soon I'm going to be the one that's recording the video. I'm going to be the one asking somebody in the other side of the world or on the other side of the state or the country for that matter for help and for aid. And I think that we're at a place right now where we have to make some really tough decisions, and some of them aren't even that tough, but I think that it's all about expanding our way of understanding how we choose to live our lives and what we contribute time to, and really just taking the time to shift a little bit for the greater good.
Thank you, Alexla. That was a great video. We have so enjoyed having Alexla as our intern this summer. And thank each of you for attending our second annual virtual event. I'm sorry that we are meeting virtually this time, but it'll be great. And we did cancel our in-person conservation celebration as well as our after party event. We canceled it only because of our care and concern for you, our neighbors, our donors, our friends. We've missed you terribly, and we've worried about you during the last 16 to 18 months. But we have continued to do our work. Conserving Carolina has been extremely active, and we've only been able to do it because of our loyal support from you. You have continued to volunteer when it was safe. The trails volunteers have continued to keep our trails up and workable. And you have gone out in droves to hike on them. And lastly, our donors have continued to support us, and we are forever grateful. We acknowledge, we know that you have many choices as to who you will volunteer with, who you will support financially, and where your heart is. You have choices, and you have chosen Conserving Carolina as something you care about. We are very humbled by that, and we thank you. And I'd like to ask you to just continue making that choice. Make that choice over and over, because our work must continue. We must continue to care for our environment. I know there are a lot of other issues out there, global issues such as the pandemic and the climate crisis, but you know what they say, think globally, but give locally. So I encourage you all to continue that. Thank you for your ongoing support and for all the ways you partner with Conserving Carolina. And next up is a really fun thing, our Flying Squirrel Challenge. And this is something that's free for you to enjoy. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erica Berg, the Community Engagement Manager at Conserving Carolina. This is me, paddleboarding at Lake Adger after a rainstorm with some friends. I've loved finding new ways to explore our outdoors here in Western North Carolina. What do you like to do outside? Whatever your favorite activities, we challenge you to explore the places that you helped protect while you do them. This year, we launched a new challenge, the Flying Squirrel Outdoor Challenge. It's a companion to our long-running White Squirrel Hiking Challenge, which, by the way, we're launching a new version of in fall 2021. The hiking challenge, as you might guess, is all about hiking. The Flying Squirrel Challenge gives you some more options in case, like the flying squirrel, you like to get around in your own way. This challenge is open to people of all abilities, with options that are accessible to all. Here's how it works. We give you a list of 13 places that Conserving Carolina helped protect or open to the public. You choose 8 that you want to explore. Here are the outings you can choose from. We invite you to join this challenge and see some more of the places you've helped protect as a Conserving Carolina member. And please share your stories and photos. The Sassafras Mountain Overlook is the highest point in South Carolina, with views of the 6,370-acre Headwaters State Forest that Conserving Carolina helped protect. The park at Flat Rock offers trails, ponds, creeks, picnic areas, playgrounds, a wildflower meadow, and so much more. At Conisty Falls Park in Brevard, there are actually 2 beautiful waterfalls at this small park, and there's an accessible viewing platform. You can paddle, float, or fish the French Broad River. You'll see lots of wildlife while knowing that you're making this river even better by supporting river restorations that revitalize habitat and improve our water quality. Enjoy the King Creek Greenway in Fletcher and learn about the stream restoration while you're there. The Vaughn Creek Greenway runs along a creek in Tryon with a small waterfall and has beautiful spring wildflowers. Hooker Falls, one of the famous waterfalls of DuPont, is a popular spot for swimming. There's also an accessible viewing platform there. The Ocklawaha Greenway is a birding hotspot in Henderson County. Plus, it's a great place for a walk, run, or bike ride. The trails at Carolina Memorial Sanctuary are open to the public. Here, in this conservation burial ground, you can learn more about natural conservation burial, enjoy the peaceful surroundings, and see birds, salamanders, and more thriving in the wetland that we helped restore. The Brevard Bike Path is a greenway that links downtown Brevard to Pisgah National Forest. At Bear Wallow, you can enjoy panoramic mountain views and gorgeous sunsets with a 2-mile round-trip hike. Join us on any volunteer work day to remove non-native invasive species, improve trails, restore wildlife habitat, and more. You'll meet some great people and make a difference for our natural world. Experience the forest with all of your senses on a guided forest bathing walk. You'll get to see the stunning Transfiguration Preserve and Bat Cave. To become a Flying Squirrel Outdoor Challenge champion, you need to have completed 8 outings and you need to be a Conserving Carolina member. It's easy to log your outings online. When you've done 8, we'll send your award package with your Flying Squirrel patch. As a Conserving Carolina member, you helped protect all of these great places for everyone to enjoy, so get out and explore them. Here's where you can learn more and log your outings. That's conservingcarolina.org/flying-squirrel-challenge. Have fun out there.
Wow, the Flying Squirrel Challenge sounds like a great way to get the whole family outside. I can't wait to get out to all those protected places myself. On behalf of Conserving Carolina, I would like to give a very special thank you to everyone who's made this event possible. Thank you to the premier business sponsors, Hunter Subaru and Beverly Hanks, all our individual sponsors, and Guardians of the Green business sponsors for making this event possible. Thank you to Conservation Celebration Task Force Planning Committee for all their hard work putting this together. And most importantly, to the many volunteers, donors, and supporters like you who make this important work possible. Thank you from Conserving Carolina. Our next video is about a special conservation project that you made happen. But first, let's hear a quick message from one of our premier sponsors.
Hi, I'm Randy Hunter with Hunter Subaru. This is why we support Conserving Carolina. First and foremost, we love how Conserving Carolina preserves nature, protects the environment, and enhances really where we live. We live in a great area, and we need someone like Conserving Carolina to be an advocate and a protector of these natural outdoors that we love so much. So, Hunter Subaru is proud to support Conserving Carolina, and we'd ask you to support them as well.
Carolina Memorial Sanctuary is a conservation burial ground where Conserving Carolina protects the land, and Carolina Memorial Sanctuary provides a very sacred place for people to bury their loved ones.
Green burial means different things in different cemeteries. In a traditional cemetery, they sometimes will have a part of their cemetery set aside for green burial. And what it usually means is that the graves are dug by hand, sometimes not. The graves are 3 feet deep instead of 6. The containers that the person is buried in need to be biodegradable, either a shroud or a cardboard coffin or a wood casket. And the body cannot have been embalmed. At Carolina Memorial Sanctuary, we have imposed stricter guidelines. So we make sure that the graves are dug by hand. We only go 3 feet deep so that the nutrients from our bodies can actually benefit what's planted above. We introduce organic matter into the grave, so that helps with decomposition of the body. And family members are allowed to participate in the lowering of the body and also helping to close the grave. They can do their own ceremony. And we have the added benefit of having a conservation easement laying over the land. So that helps us to protect the land in perpetuity, from the way we take care of it to what we plant here.
Conservation burial grounds really honor the earth and all creatures on the earth as well, because it's providing homes for birds and vegetation and trees that, if it were not used for a burial ground, might one day come under development.
Carolina Memorial Sanctuary is a public park. It's open during daylight hours. There are lots of folks who come around and walk the trails, some folks who don't even have a loved one buried here. We have 11.113 acres here, and it's a long, skinny piece of property, and we're blessed that it has McDowell Creek flowing through it. McDowell Creek flows into the French Broad River. And we have a rare mountain bog, which we've recently received grant money to restore the banks of the creek and the bog. In its history, this land was a dairy farm, and it appeared that the owner had tried to fill in the wetland so that it was more useful. So we were able to, what's it called when you take it out? Dredge. And so we were able to dredge the wetland and restore it, which is wonderful because we've got native birds coming, native plants showing up in the wetlands, so we're really excited about that.
With funding from the North Carolina Land and Water Fund and North Carolina Division of Water Resources, and of course with cooperation from the landowners, Carolina Memorial Sanctuary and Barkwells, Conserving Carolina was able to complete a really cool stream and wetland restoration project. We worked with SM Soil and Water Solutions to stabilize and enhance over 1,100 linear feet of McDowell Creek and one of its tributaries. We also restored an alluvial wetland by removing over 12 inches of filter that was deposited on top. This work greatly improved water quality by preventing sedimentation into McDowell Creek. It also created important wetland habitat, reconnected the floodplain, and removed non-native invasive plants.
The partnership between Carolina Memorial Sanctuary and Conserving Carolina is one of the unique relationships. We're actually on the forefront of combining these two missions and visions to provide sacred places for people to be buried and also respect and save natural landscapes. And so the partnership far exceeds anything either of them can do alone for this particular purpose.
Young's Mountain Trail is pretty unique to the area, as opposed to, Weed Patch or the Rumbling Bald area. One, because you get just a different view, a different perspective, which is what most people are looking for when they're going outside. Something else that's really important is that where I'm standing, right at the end of the trail, you'll eventually see, but there's this beautiful vista looking across north and then west over to Lake Lure. And where we're standing, there's, I believe, endangered mosses and lichens, which we're trying to rope off so when you are up here enjoying it, you'll know where to stay so that the environment is still intact. This hike, although it is very challenging, it is doable by many people as long as you bring the right shoes, you bring water, get yourself some snacks so you can really enjoy what you've worked so hard to go see. And this view is truly phenomenal, especially on a day like today.
I'm excited for another opportunity for the public to get out and enjoy a new space, especially with here at Young's Mountain. We don't have any other existing trails here, whereas that wasn't the case at Bear Wallow in that area. So people were familiar with that area before, but here on the other side of Lake Lure, it's a less traveled area, so it'll be exciting to show a new spot that is now protected. Yeah, so over here we have Rumbling Bald Resort, so part of Chimney Rock State Park. The tallest peak we see is Shumont Mountain. Right next to that is Eagle Rock. And then behind me right there is Weed Patch Mountain, so one of the hosts of our other trails here in the area. It's hard not to love the top here, but I also do like the bottom, and then the mid section also has some cool overhangs and overlooks that also stand out and are unique in their own ways. And so for the hike itself, I really enjoy ending at the bottom where it's shaded and there's a couple creeks so you might be able to cool off your head. But here you can just see for miles and miles, so it's really hard to beat the reward you get up here.
This trail would not have been here for, all of the funders and all of the people who have been willing this trail into existence. Really and truly the Rock Crushers, who I help lead every Wednesday since the dawning of time, it feels. They've been around, but really they're the ones with the boots on the ground, moving the rocks, digging the dirt, establishing the tread that needs to be established, and just getting that nitty-gritty work that needs to get done. And a lot of this trail wouldn't be here without them. Go Rock Crushers. Woo. You guys are doing great.
Man, isn't that a beautiful trail? I hope you'll visit it soon. Have you had a chance to check out Conserving Carolina's awesome auction that's live right now? If you haven't, just go to conservationcelebration.org. The auction is open for bidding until 8 p.m. on Sunday, August the 29th, so there'll be plenty of time to make some bids after this event. There are a ton of cool items in the auction, but I want to take a few minutes to share with you some items that really jumped out to me. This first auction item is a 7-night stay at a beautiful private beach house at Harbor Island, not far from Beaufort, South Carolina. This property has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and is in a gated beach community on a small barrier island. This ocean view home comes with a golf cart, grill, use of the neighborhood pool, and a panoramic ocean view. You can watch the tides ebb and flow through the tidal marsh where herons, egrets, ibis, and wood storks often pause to catch their dinners. Beyond the marsh, you can see the Atlantic Ocean and across Johnson's Creek to the maritime forests of neighboring Hunting Island State Park. Reservations must be made by the end of 2021, but your vacation can take place in 2022. Some blackout dates do apply. This item is number 108 on the website, and the value of this beach vacation is $2,000. Starting bids, $800. The next auction item is an adventure on a 4-wheel driving tour on the back roads of southwestern Transylvania County. Your group of 4 will embark from the Gorges State Park Visitor Center and head into the Jocassee Gorges, which was named one of the last 100 most wild and beautiful places by National Geographic. You can see endangered Oconee bells and other flora and fauna in the Toxaway Game Lands. You might stop at the wild and scenic Horse Pasture River for some fly fishing, picnicking, photography, or swimming. Your guide, Tori Nugert, will interpret the special ecology and natural history of the area. A 4-wheel drive vehicle and driver will be provided by Conserving Carolina. You will have the chance to consult with Tori before the trip about other activities you would like to engage in along the tour. Reservations must be made with Tori by September 1st of 22. This item is number 121 and is valued at $800. Your starting bid, $320. The last item I want to share with you is a 5-night all-inclusive stay at the Placencia Resort in beautiful Belize for 2 guests. Situated on the beautiful Maya Beach, a short journey away from the village of Placencia and all the activities Belize has to offer. This resort is perfectly located for access to both jungle and ocean adventures. Enjoy the on-site amenities, swim-up bar, spacious pool, restaurants, an overwater bar, marina, and more. Complete your vacation experience by seeing the stunning Belize Barrier Reef, Maya Mountains, or simply lounging by the incredible pool and its tropical swim-up bar. One day of the trip, guests will visit the resort's 2-acre private island, Rangwana Key, and spend their day in a pristine tropical paradise, sipping on a frozen cocktail, snorkeling, or playing beach games. Please note, airfare and transportation are not included. Travel must be completed within 2 years from the date of purchase, and blackout dates do apply. This package is item number 161 on the website, and the value of this 5-night trip abroad is $5,245. Your starting bid, $3,500. Wow, these packages are so exciting, and there's a lot more. Cool items in the auction like a guided bird outing, a family whitewater package with Green River Adventures, some beautiful crafts, and a whole lot more. Don't forget to go online and place your bids by 8 p.m. on August the 29th.
Since 2004, Conserving Carolina has administered AmeriCorps Project Conserve, a national service program that places over 30 AmeriCorps members in service positions across western North Carolina. Project Conserve members serve full-time 11-month terms with local nonprofits and government agencies. Their service activities include leading environmental education programs for youth and adults, engaging volunteers in conservation efforts, and providing direct service on public lands, rivers, and trails. Through their service, Project Conserve members gain valuable hands-on experience in the conservation field and have many opportunities for networking and professional development. AmeriCorps Project Conserve gives Conserving Carolina an opportunity to support the development of future conservation leaders and have a meaningful impact on conservation and community needs throughout the region. We are grateful for the support of AmeriCorps, Volunteer NC, and our host sites and community partners, and for the dedication and service of the Project Conserve members, whose impact in the region will be felt for years to come.
Hey everybody, Shannon Whitworth here, Woody Platt here. We're excited to play some music for you. Tonight we're going to play a few songs for you. But more importantly, we're excited to do something for Conserving Carolina because you've done so much for us. Right here on our property, you've helped us with some river restoration, major river restoration, which not only helps our land, but all the people downstream. And you're helping us with a thing upstream. And we're also just grateful for all that you do in our region for the environment and for the watershed. So thanks for what you do, and we hope you enjoy the music.
Thank you.
Well, I caught your gaze while I was singing a song. You were crying for a soul that flew. It was like we had met in a time before when my ancient words knew you. So I grabbed your arm and we felt a spark rolling, surging through. You made me electric, you turned me on, and you brought me back to new. Oh, baby, get back. You're bringing me back to it's your gift to write this song for you. I thank you, friend, for coming along and making me feel new. Oh, baby, get back. You're bringing me back, back to me. Oh, baby, get back. You're bringing me back, back to me. Oh, baby, get back. You're bringing me back, back to you. Oh, baby, get back. You're bringing me back, bringing me back to brand new.
Baby, get back. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sound beautiful. Yeah,
I guess I kicked this one off.
you did. Come on, come on, come on, baby. Come on, baby. Take it easy on me. Come on, come on, come on, baby. Come on, baby. Take it easy on me. I know it's Sunday and I just got home. You've been waiting up. I've been waiting to fall. My mind and body wanna lay down low, and I think about when I have to go. So, come on, come on, baby. Come on, baby. Take it easy on me. To my world, with one at home that I seldom feel. I know I'm short in my mood. Yes, my mood is real. You see, I'm beaten down from this rolling on down these roads, bringing sad songs. They weigh heavy on my heart. They reminded me of you 1,000 miles away. They keep your love light strong. Come on, come on, baby. Come on, baby. Take it easy on me. Come on, come on, baby. Come on, baby. Take it easy on me. let me be. I know it's Sunday and I just got home. You've been waiting up, I've been waiting to fall. Sound good, baby.
Thank you so much, Woody and Shannon, for that great performance, and also for being great partners with Conserving Carolina in conserving and restoring your property along the East Fork of the French Broad River. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker for the evening, Jay Lutze. Jay Erskine Lutze is a trained attorney, author, trustee for Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, and leading voice for state and federal conservation funding for investment in public lands. In his book, Stand Up That Mountain, Jay tells the story of how he helped to stop the proposed Putnam Mine, which would have devastated views from the Appalachian National Scenic Trail. Thank you for joining us tonight, Jay. We're excited for you to share your insights from the larger conservation movement at this critical time. And I'd like to ask, based upon your work at the state and national level, what are the emerging priorities and strategies that local land trusts like Conserving Carolina and our supporters should be focusing upon?
Thanks, Kieran. I think that's the question I wake up thinking about every morning. I'm sure it's for a lot of us in the conservation and land trust community. That's the question of the day. I think a lot of us spend a lot of time feeling relatively powerless in the face of the large forces that are admittedly beyond our control. But I think in the land trust community, we have come up with solutions that are relevant and powerful and are going to help us solve the macro problems by starting at the micro level. And that's what's great about land trusts is land trusts. I'm reminded of the last recession around 2007 before the COVID recession. Land trusts actually added staff nationally during the last recession because I think in times of crisis, the land trusts are so responsive to local needs that our memberships tend to hold up. People tend to dig in and see ever more the value of what we are bringing to the big questions that face us. And it's no surprise to anybody who would be attending this event that climate is sort of the overarching crisis that all the other crises can be folded into and that amplifies the other crises as well. So I'd like to spend a minute talking about the climate crisis, talking about how what local and regional land trusts are doing along with our national partners and our government agency partners, how what we're working on can be an antidote and very powerful in the larger effort to push back against a climate that is going to make it increasingly hostile, not just for the plant and animal communities that we're pledged to support and care for, but also the human community. And I think lately anybody that has a newspaper subscription or access to the internet is well aware of what's happening with an accelerated timeline for impacts from global climate disruption. So on that happy note, let's dig in a little bit and talk about how what we can do together can be extremely powerful. So first of all, I want to talk about how relevant where we are is in the climate conversation. The Southern Appalachian Mountains are one of the most biodiverse places on Earth. We live in a temperate rainforest. That surprises a lot of people how we're classified in this landscape, but most conservationists are well aware of it. And even people who don't keep up with conservation biology are aware that species are migrating towards higher elevation in response to climate change. If you think about an island and an island under assault from rising seas, that pushes the human population up higher in elevation seeking safety. And species do the same thing. So species in the Piedmont of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and then on the west side of the Appalachians are moving in response to warming temperatures. We can leave aside for the moment what's causing the climate change as rapidly as it is, but there's no question that the climate is warming and that species are responding to it. So in conservation, our challenge is to create pathways and habitat connectivity so that species can move around in response to a changing climate, so that in case we can have some positive impact on climate change and may buy us some time, we will have a repository of plant and animal habitat types that can then be the refugia that allows those species to persist for a very long time. So that's what land trusts are great at. The great news is that we as land trusts don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's what we've been working on since the land trust movement really started to mature in the 1970s. And it's something that Conserving Carolina has been doing since its founding. And the other regional land trusts and national partners that we work with have long identified the Southern Appalachian region as a critical refuge for rare plants, rare animals, habitat types that you don't find in other places. Look at what's going on with habitat inside Hickory Nut Gorge, for example, which is a focus area for Conserving Carolina and other groups. The north faces of canyons and rocks in gorges host a lot of species that you don't find any other place. It's a very fragile area of endemism that supports plants that are not growing other places. In other words, are endemic to a very small region and don't exist other places. So those places got special attention from conservationists a long time ago, and then you add on this need for connected habitats for animals to move around and migrate in response to changing conditions, whether it is an increase in development, which we've seen, or a change in climate, which we're seeing. Those are all things that land trusts are very effective at piecing together on the map, adding to the base of public lands. Now, we're very fortunate in Western North Carolina in some ways that we have a forested network that began to be protected in the 1920s after the 1911 passage of the Weeks Act, when the National Forest System was really created as a system and became the U.S. Forest Service, for example, but also national parks that thread through our region. The Blue Ridge Parkway is a great opportunity, provides an opportunity for connectivity of public lands between national forests, national parks, all these different public land holding agencies. And then you throw in the great work that the land trusts are doing on top of that with lands that we buy and convey to North Carolina state parks, for example, or along the North Carolina-South Carolina border at high elevation, those important areas, or lands that we convey out to the Wildlife Resources Commission. So lands that are managed in different ways under public ownership. And then the power of conservation easements, which is the tool that land trusts are very adept at utilizing to have another tool in the toolkit for people to protect their own land, a tax incentived way for individuals to protect land that they care about and that we've identified as having important conservation value. The conservation easement tool is a really effective one and has protected a lot of land in our region and a lot of land nationally. You know, I tell people that if you take a 3-year snapshot at any time during the last 20 years, the land trust movement has protected more land in those windows, if you will, than we lose to sprawl. So when I started working in conservation, I used to think, well, this is hopeless. The developers have all the money and they've got great mapping. They have all these tools and resource to capital and access to capital, and they can move faster than we can. Well, that's no longer true. The land trusts are extremely sophisticated, and with GIS capability and through programs like AmeriCorps and our own staffing that we do, we have access to great mapping, and we are able to keep up with developers And where we can come to an agreement with a landowner at an appraised value, we can often compete with developers and protect land using one of the many tools in the toolkit. So that's exciting to me. It gives me a lot of hope for the future. And I want to talk about a couple of other things that give me hope. Primarily something I've worked on the last 12 years and Kieran has worked on, and other members of the Conserving Carolina staff, and really all the land trusts in North Carolina and beyond. But the Great American Outdoors Act is an inspiring piece of legislation that, as I say, it took about a dozen years of working in a concerted way to get a bill to the president's desk, get it approved. Obviously, you don't get to the president's desk until you're approved in the Senate and the House, and then we need the president to sign it. And the fascinating thing that happened with the Great American Outdoors Act was all sides saw a political benefit in passing a massive lands package that included funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which funds acquisitions within Pisgah National Forest or Nantahala National Forest across the country. Also in Department of Interior units, meaning Park Service units. So that can be land along the Blue Ridge Parkway. It also filters into state and local communities through the Stateside Assistance Grants Program. And this program was chronically underfunded. Appropriators in the House and Senate used to always take money out of this $900 million pot that was created in 1964, and conservation always got sold short. We didn't even know where the money was going. And so we worked effectively and for a very long time to build some champions who were offended, as we were, that money set aside for conservation was being sent to other purposes. And I have long dreamed of a time when politicians would be on the stump campaigning and somebody in the crowd would say, "What do you think about the underfunded Land and Water Conservation Fund? What do you think about the fact that conservation is falling behind in our ability to provide clean drinking water for our communities and places for people to recreate?" And that finally happened when the last president, Donald Trump, saw it as a political benefit to have Western Republicans join Democrats in the House and the Senate and seek passage of this bill and fix this program. So a year ago, August last year, that bill was signed. And I can tell you long stories, but part of the reason it was signed was because there was an election pending, and some vulnerable members of the United States Senate saw it as critical to their reelection in states that really care about conservation. Those states being Colorado and Wyoming and a couple of other states that were on the list. And we should all thank North Carolina Senator Richard Burr for getting the ball rolling with Republicans. We had a lot of Democratic support. We didn't have a lot of Republican support when we started this effort back in the early 2000s. And Senator Burr wrote a bill that we kind of rode for many, many years until we saw this opportunity last year. So that gives me a lot of hope for the future. If politicians start identifying conservation as something they have to be good on back home, that's going to move this ball forward, and I find it very exciting. I'm also heartened that the North Carolina legislature, coming out of the last recession in 2007, 2008, 2009, conservation funding was cut 90% in North Carolina. And that meant a land trust like Conserving Carolina had a very hard time helping local farmers protect their own land using conservation easements. It means that we had a hard time protecting rivers and streams and other habitats that are critical for outdoor recreation. And we had a big shift this year in the General Assembly. The legislature really came around on conservation funding in the Senate budget and the House budget and added over $100 million over the 2-year biennium to get us back closer to where we were in the good old days of conservation funding in the 1990s and the early 2000s. So that gives me hope that, again, not just at the federal level, but also at the state level, maybe we're going to end up with a budget this year that the governor can sign that has great conservation increases for the Land and Water Fund and the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund and the Agricultural Development and Farmland Preservation Trust Fund. So that gives me a lot of hope. I call that Exhibit B in what keeps me going. So I guess in summary, I would say that the land trusts have been doing, we were early adapters. We realized a long time ago what landscapes needed to be healthy. And the rest of the country, I think, is catching up to us. And part of the reason for that is because a land trust is not just the projects that we do, and it's not just the staff that work for the land trust. It's the community that supports the land trust. It's the community that formed it in the first place, almost always because there was some local urgent need. That's how land trusts are born. And local people know their landscape best. And when you put a whole lot of local interests forward simultaneously, then you have a movement. And Conserving Carolina is part of a statewide movement, one of the 22 land trusts in the state. It's one of the 2,000 land trusts in the country. And in partnership with all of these groups that maintain the same very high standards, we're having a major impact. And we now have so many graduates, I would say, of the land trust movement, all the classes of board members that we've had over the years that are now out in the community that have seen how a land trust works, and by word of mouth spread that message to other landowners and to other potential board members, to other donors and members. And lastly, I'll say I think during COVID we learned a lot of lessons about the impact of access to the great outdoors. And I'm really proud of how the land trust community has responded to that. There's a great federal program called ORLP, which is an outdoor recreation program that supports urban parks and helps people who have previously had little access to the great outdoors, improved access. And this need, I think we all feel during the COVID crisis, to be outside more. It's a healthy place to be. It restores our souls. It helps strengthen our family bonds and our community bonds. So hopefully out of this crisis, we're learning something that is relevant. And again, where the land trust can be in the middle of a solution to a problem that we've been living with for longer than we expected, that's for sure. So thanks for having me, and happy to join you guys anytime and work alongside you in the field. And thanks to everybody that's supporting what your staff and board are doing. I'm grateful as a neighbor. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jay Luzzi, for joining us this evening and for sharing your inspirational message. And now for the moment many of you have been waiting for. Thank you to everyone who purchased a raffle ticket for the 2021 Trip of Your Choice raffle. Funds from the trip raffle make projects, like the ones you've heard about this evening, a reality. I know you're all on the seat of your pants, waiting to hear who the winner is, so let's get to it. Oh goodness, I'm just so excited I can't get the words out. Please check that chat box to see who won, and congratulations. And now I'm going to draw the winner of a special trip raffle just for staff members. This special drawing is made possible thanks to a generous donor who believes that supporting the staff of Conserving Carolina is just as important as supporting the many projects they work so hard on. The staff member who wins this drawing will be allotted $2,000 to be used to take a nature-oriented trip of their choice. Here we go! I'm just so tongue-tied again, you'll have to see who won in the chat. Congratulations. Thank you to our generous donor for supporting our staff in this exciting and unique way. Well, that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to the 2021 Virtual Conservation Celebration. I'm so happy you joined us. I hope you learned a lot and feel inspired to contribute and support Conserving Carolina. I believe there's nothing more important that we can do for the future generations of Polk County and our region than to support Conserving Carolina. Thank you and good night.